further ado, I'm incredibly honored to welcome our panel of guests today, who have each had an incredible impact on our community. So starting from my right, we have Priya Reno. She's the Chief Administrative Officer at Simon House. Next, we have Kim Turgeon. She's the Executive Director of Aventa Center of Excellence for Women with Addictions. Next up is Craig Hill. Craig Hill's the CEO of the Calgary Dream Center. And next is Stian Rorstad. He's the Executive Director of Recovery Acres Calgary Society. And last but not least, Bruce Holstead, Executive Director of Fresh Start Recovery. So just for anybody that doesn't know you in the same order I kind of introduced you, would you guys mind saying a few words to introduce yourselves?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Priya Reno, as Robbie said. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer at Simon House, and I've been there for almost 3 years. And I've seen, since I've been there, a lot of changes in our alumni, which I'm excited to talk about during this discussion.
My name is Kim Turgeon. I'm the Executive Director at Aventa, Center of Excellence for Women in Calgary. I've been with Aventa for 23 years, which is a very long time. It's hard to lie about your age after a while, you guys. But anyway, I've been at Aventa for that long. I love working in this sector. I really enjoy working to help women to overcome their addictions, and I love being here. I've attended one of the other events with Fresh Start in the past on the panel, and I'm really pleased that you invited us back, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
My name's Craig Hill. I've had the privilege of being a part of the Calgary Dream Center before it was. I was sharing with Kim, actually I was sharing with everybody who would listen today, that when I was a 17-year-old boy, I was in the strip club that was in the basement of the Calgary Dream Center. And I was at, I don't know why I felt to share that today, but, and then down the hall was a heavy metal bar called Frankie and Johnny's. And some of you in the room remember both. No applause for Frankie and Johnny's. That's not right. And 33 years ago, I went into the basement of Knox United Church, and I realized my life's not on track. And to be serving at the Calgary Dream Center with the incredible staff and doing the work that we do is absolutely an honor and a privilege. And I'm very grateful, Bruce, for the invitation to be here today.
First and foremost, I am a person in recovery. I am also the Executive Director at Recovery Acres Calgary Society, better known to a lot of people as 1835 House and now 1839 House. I've been involved with Recovery Acres for over 11 years now. And in those years, I've gotten to know Bruce and Kim and everyone else really in the recovery community. And it's so nice to actually be working together on items here now. It used to be a little bit of a competitive landscape. You know, Bruce and I were talking about that before, and the fact that we're no longer going home to our little silos, that we're actually getting together and collaborating on these things is just fantastic. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm almost done being nervous. I appreciate your story, Craig. That helps alleviate some of the pressure. I'm Bruce Holstead. I'm the Executive Director of Fresh Start. Me and Fresh Start have a long serendipitous relationship for the best part of my 26 plus lived years of experience. I think that, you know, some of the pieces that we touched, we need to let Priya off the hook a little bit. I just grabbed her at the last minute because, you know, in the last minute planning, when you try to do this stuff off the side of your desk, you know, I was thinking about her this morning, and I said, I was thinking that we should have invited you because, you know, John was away out of province, and it didn't occur to us, but you know, everything works out for a reason. So here we are.
That's right.
And I think that, you know, much like along the Stian's point, then it's how we come together and how we share. And today we get to talk about that a little bit, about organizationally how we can do that, but perhaps as leaders we can begin sharing that experience with our alumni. There's more often than not, we do share each other's alumni, and
Yeah.
and you're not property of any one place, and how do we begin to really broaden this? And I think that the idea of splitting up some of the gratuities amongst the various alumni is important, because I think some of the things that we will talk about is, as leaders, is how can we better support that process, right? So I'll leave it at that, and maybe we can get into the conversation. So most of it's pretty organic in nature. Robbie did give me some paper with some questions on it, but I much rather just have a conversation, and make the statements as we feel, with no motives or no hooks or no hidden agenda. I think that I don't think I know that we all feel the same way in wanting to support the alumni that come through our organizations, and that we want to be able to build a stronger community, because when you do leave, that's really the foundation. That's the community that we land in. That's the places where we all have come to grow and to prosper. So hopefully by the end of today, we have some better direction and some new ideas and some shared knowledge on how to get there. So, yeah. How about, Craig, you want to start with something, anything?
Interesting that you would ask me, because I am the least knowledgeable in the room, I would say, or certainly on the panel with respect to alumni. I've come to my role at the Calgary Dream Center having stepped into my successor's shoes. Jim Moore had been there for really since day one, building, and my involvement has been as executive director and now CEO for really the past 3 years. But alumni and my role, there was this thing called COVID, which seemed to interrupt everything that was going on within our operations, and it made distance and it made connection so challenging. And of course, many of us in the room would appreciate the notion that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, but it is connection. And what do you do when you're limited with your ability to connect? So one of the really difficult things that my predecessor had to do was change some of the staffing. We just had to. It wasn't an option. And one of the areas that got impacted was our aftercare. And this isn't about an opinion of whether that was good or bad. Jim had to make difficult decisions actually to keep our doors open. And one of the things that got impacted was the community. Impacted was the alumni. Impacted was the aftercare. And so all of us experienced community and the impact so differently, but we can all agree that it was brutal. And having to be 6 feet from one another and the distance that was required made coming together really, really challenging. And we celebrate that Fresh Start, you had the space that you could still invite folks into the room, but that wasn't the case for a lot of us. So why do I tell you that? The doors are open again. The invitation to connect, things have changed. The landscape allows us to come together. And so the Calgary Dream Center has been for the last little while reconsidering, what does alumni look like for us? What does it look like if we actually had been given a chance to restart something? To not just go back to what was, and there were some good things, but to actually dream about what alumni might look like. And we have an amazing group, and some of them are sitting in the back corner. One of them, gentleman who had been part of our case management team, had a passion to build alumni. And the passion has spread through our organization to realize that this isn't something that is kind of a nice to have. That alumni is the heart. Alumni brings so much energy within the building. Alumni brings so much life, so much hope, so much community is centered around what's happening with alumni. And so the Dream Center to be on this stage right now, I come much more from the posture of we're learning. But I can tell you this, there's something that's beautiful about being a learner, and that is you're aware that you don't know everything there is to know. But one thing that I am aware of is this notion, and this isn't a cliche, we are better together. And that you're my alumni, or you're her alumni, or you're his alumni. I'm not so sure that's going to serve any of us going forward. I think there's something to be said about there is a unity, there is a togetherness, and the more we're able to support one another and work together and celebrate each other and the unique things that we're all doing, the better we are as a community. And I carry the opinion, and I think I do speak for our team. The idea of walking together and building together, the more that we can do together, the more impact we can have in Calgary. And Calgary needs a strong voice. Our community needs to see us living in a way that is compelling and inviting and inspiring. And the more that we can come together to do these sorts of things, the better. So, Robbie, I'll just end with one thought, and this is important. Just an acknowledgement for what you're doing today. For you guys here at Fresh Start, no, it's just what you do. It's just the way that you operate. Well, you're demonstrating leadership in this. And you have a long history of building alumni. Look in this room. Look at the space that we're in. This hasn't happened overnight. And their posture is to say, whatever we've done, whatever we've got, we want to have open hands and we want to share. So I just want to acknowledge Bruce. I want to acknowledge you, and I want to thank you, Robbie, for the leadership and conveying and bringing us all together. The Calgary Dream Center, we're in.
I'd like to jump in on that. I thank you very much for the recognition, and I share your feelings wholeheartedly. You know, I say to the alumni, like we've had the conversation, Fresh Start is nothing without the alumni, and the alumni is nothing without Fresh Start. And we need to build this symbiotic relationship and working with each other. And I think that the idea of us coming together and being able to share and grow as a community is brand new on the horizon. It's a direction which recovery's never went. When I think about, first showing up into the rooms and that whole idea of just, when I first started using it was to be accepted. And then when I showed up to the rooms and, hi, I'm Bruce, I'm an addict. And they kept, no matter what I said, they said, keep coming back. And it's, I was accepted. And then, and then you have treatment. And then after treatment, you have alumni. But where do we find that place of acceptance? And how do we build a larger circle for people to go regardless of age, race, sexual identification, religion, lack of religion, a place where they can land, where they continue to be part of something outside of that hour and a half, outside of that hour of the meeting, right? And so I hope we can share some stuff, I'd like to pose a question to the others, as leaders, if we lead, what do you think we can do better, to be able to support our alumni groups as a whole, to allow them to grow more prosperously? I'll throw that out to whoever wants to answer.
I'd love to jump in there, Bruce. I wanted to touch on something that you mentioned earlier, and that was that in many cases we share alumni. You're in a situation where we find that approximately 2/3 of the clients that come into our center have been to treatment elsewhere. We were talking about this earlier in that just because a person didn't find their long-term recovery at our center, let's say, doesn't mean that they cannot find it at another place. I look up at these rafters here, and a lot of the successful alumni that you have gone through, Recovery Acres. They've gone through Simon House. They've gone through several of the other centers that are here in Calgary. And we're so fortunate to have so many options, great options in Calgary. But just like we're coming together as centers now and collaborating on events for our current clients and collaborating on our current successes and trying to grow into the future, I think one of the key things is for our alumni to start collaborating as well, and really carry that on. It's not just our alumni coming together to celebrate, the Recovery Acres bit. No, it's our alumni coming together to celebrate recovery and celebrate all our centers. I see a lot of familiar faces around here, and it's great to see. But I think that's how we carry on that bit there and strengthen our alumni.
That's okay.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything that everybody is saying. It is about collaboration. And when I started at Simon House almost 3 years ago, I came with that mindset from industry, from my own companies. You have to work together to build something great, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You have strengths, other people have strengths, and let's build on those strengths and share. And I think with the alumni, it's modeling that for them. And so that's what we're doing in our organization, and as we collaborate with each other, it models that for them. I mean, when I came in, as Craig was saying, COVID decimated a lot of things, and the alumni was at Simon House was really damaged by it. But starting to build them up and talking to alumni about collaborating with the other centers alumni, why not? So now when I see them playing softball together or coming here and playing whatever they do, basketball or dodgeball or floor hockey, I think it's wonderful. Like, this is what we need to be doing. We don't need to do it on our own. I think we're moving in that direction, and it's a good direction, and I support that. And we model that for our alumni. And so these things show them that we're committed to helping them grow. Because, it's about, we talk about communities of recovery. That's what it's about. Who cares where you went to a treatment program or if you even did, right? It's about coming together and supporting each other and learning how to have fun and have a life in recovery. So I think that's what we're doing, and that's what this is all about. So thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Yeah, it's great. So I think what I'm going to talk about is about 2 years ago, Aventa decided that we needed to really turn up the volume on engaging alumni, because we were doing sober birthday celebrations, we had an annual barbecue, and we also have an annual Christmas party. But we thought, we want to have more engagement, so we wanted to start planning monthly events, which we did. And I think I'll share this as one of, Robbie had a question that he showed me. It's an example of successful initiatives for engagement. Anyway, I called up Bruce one day and I said, I want to get better at this. You guys are doing a really great job, and we want to do a really great job, and I just want to, work more with you. And I said, I want to go hiking with our women, but we don't have any vehicles, and I know they'd love to go. And Bruce immediately said, we've got the vehicles. And I said, I've got the ladies. And he said, I've got a lot of men that would love to go. And I thought, this is fantastic. So I think it was within about 2-week time frame, we turned it around and we went on this hiking trip. And I mean, there was a lot of people on that trip. You could go check it out on our social media. I mean, that was a great event. And then it led us into another event that same summer, which was a pool party at Mount Pleasant Community Association. And we sold that out. And there was 200 alumni participated in that. And we did see alumni, I think, from almost every center attend that barbecue, because we opened it up to community. And so this one went really well. We did try baseball. And all the ladies were all on board and said they wanted to play baseball. And then they didn't. So we learned from that one. So we're not doing baseball. I have some notes here because I didn't want to miss anything. But we do now we do an event once a month. So at Aventa we offer mini golf. We've done the hiking, rafting down the Bow. We went with Fresh Start again, and Simon House was there. I know that Alcove Recovery was there. I'm not sure if you guys had attended that, but there was quite a few organizations came together. That was a lot of fun, honestly, and we'd love to do that one again. But it's bringing all the community together. So I think 2 years ago we sort of had an awakening and thought we can do better, and we want to. And I think this connection has been amazing. And then we also started Rocky Mountain Recovery, which I think most of you in the room probably are familiar with. And so we're doing a lot of events through there as well. And probably the largest one that we're organizing is the Recovery Day and the Wellness Walk, which I believe is on September 14th. Got the date right, I like that. And so all of this has been going on, and we've been trying to improve our connection with women on social media, and that's been going really well. There's a whole online community if you're interested in connecting on Instagram and Facebook with other people all over the world. And it's very inspirational. I've been covering for one of my staff for the last month, learning an awful lot about social media. So I feel like I'm making a lot of sober friends in the community all over the world, which I'm finding very motivating and inspiring. So I'd like to do a bit more work on that. There's a lot of growth here, is the truth. And we've got great leadership in the sector to make that happen. I'm excited because I guess if we were to put on a thermometer where we're at, I would say that in the last 2 years, we've improved what we're doing tremendously. But I feel like we're at about 25%. And I think working with all of the leaders in the sector and all of you wonderful people in recovery, I'd like to take it all, just drive that thermometer up. And it does take time. It really does. Like it doesn't happen overnight. But we're getting there, and I feel quite proud of the work that we're doing. We do have a pool party planned on July 21st through a Fresh Start and Event are hosting that. Again, we've got the Wellness Walk and Recovery Day on September 16th. We try and share all of our events that are happening with each other now, and I believe through Rocky Mountain Recovery is posting a lot of individual organizations' events, and I would encourage you to follow them. There's a really big community that's already out there. And if you just stick to the organization's website that you are an alumni of, you're probably going to be missing out on a lot of great opportunity to connect with other people in the recovery community. So I encourage you to check us all out and follow Rocky Mountain Recovery and come out to these events. You'll have a really great time, and we love having you there and building community. So
Yeah. I share in Kim's excitement. We've had a long relationship and we've done things together over the many years. And the idea that COVID slowed us down is right. My experience with our alumni it's been like this. We've been on really extreme highs with a small army to a real low of just a small little battalion that are cheering on everybody to come back in and get going again. When I think about the question posed is, it goes back to my leadership mentor guy tells me that I got to take the operational hat off all the time, because that's my background too. But I'm going to put it on for a minute. Is you don't know what you don't know, and that's okay. And the last couple of years has taught us a whole lot about through experiences of what can we do more of and how do we do it. And the challenge for me is from our alumni standpoint was we've always supported our alumni to the nth degree. We want to find the ways and means. And our alumni has always found a way to fundraise and do things that support the new guys in the house, or the new people in the house, I apologize. And it was a beautiful altruistic kind of piece. But as our alumni got bigger, the challenge around fundraising also became somewhat of a issue, right? And it was kind of one of those things where when the alumni goes out, it's kind of like, that's great. You came back with, 2 life preservers for the rafting trip, but you stepped on Rod's toes because he was, had a $10,000 ask in for the life rafts and all the life preservers, and we can't qualify for that now. So how do we find an equal balance of not getting involved? And one of my first things I did at my first budget build with Pat was created a line item for alumni. And took money and placed hard dollars in our budget so that we could begin to finance some of these ideas and these excursions and some of the pieces. And our alumni agreed to, in turn, come and support and act as volunteers, just as they did, and help us drive that in that fundraising capacity so that we could start to make it sustainable and to return in. And it wasn't just, a bunch of bougie money that we're just going to throw out the door for having a party. There has to be some sort of fundraising mechanism to it that returns that money back into the pool. So when you think about, Kim's comment about sold out on the pool party, these events all take time, money, and components to them. And I, for anybody who knows, most of the stuff that we do with the alumni is off the side of our desk, because really our main job is treatment. but we need to broaden the idea of what does the term recovery mean, right? It's just not treatment. It goes far beyond treatment. It's the before, the middle, the end, the in between, and we need to start to incorporate that in, and some of the pieces that, and I'm just sharing it for you, in case it leverages some of the pieces that we're doing is that Rocky Mountain recovery. When we first sat down, we talked about what could this look like, Kim? Like, what can we do? Like, and one night it was me, Kim, and Robbie on Teams meeting, drafting a logo and, starting to stitch together and reaching out to others, Craig and Priya and everybody saying, would you like to come together? And we took that same idea where every organization now contributes funds into a pool in which we can all use to begin funding these higher kind of level pieces such as Recovery Day and so on. I think, the big goal is one day having some alumni representation, that alumni community representation at the table to help drive that cause a little further. Within Fresh Start, we've created, it's evolved from the external relations team to the external internal relations team. And as of late yesterday, we've turned it into the community relations team. And so we have some individuals that allow us to do what we do here, right? And we put them together and they get to strategize and do some of these events. And we do them not because we need to say, look at who we are. It's as that example that you had stated is what can we do when we come together? I remember when we first came back and we did the panel together, and the first driver of the very first panel was community and the importance of coming together, because I've been around long enough where I've seen us coming together as a community, and then COVID struck and not only separated us that way, but other changes on the landscape occurred that kind of created some separation between us, and that doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me, and I'm grateful that I get to share the stage with others who feel as driven and as passionate about coming together and bringing us all together, because the truth of the matter is, we're in this together, whether you call it friendship, sponsorship, relationship, we're in this ship together, this boat together, right? Yeah, so those are some of the pieces that I think, operationally, what can we do to drive, some more help towards because the truth of our alumni come up every day, hey, I got a great idea. In fact, today Lee came up, he says, hey, could I take some hockey sticks back to Lethbridge? And I said, how about you get Lethbridge just to send me an email and we'll buy you some down there, right? And we'll work on that. But that allows for that line item, right? So it's not because, we're all bougie and everything. It's because we understand the importance of bringing that together. So, that's operationally, maybe we can dig questions. So stop.
You said it right there, right? It's with that up and down cycle that you experienced with your alumni. We experienced the same thing. We had at one time a really strong alumni who were putting together events every single month. I don't know if any of you in the room here remember the sober dances that would happen, what it seemed like every single weekend. Every single weekend there was a sober dance. Simon House would have one, Fresh Start would have one, we would have one, and the question in the recovery community was, well, who's having the sober dance this weekend? And that was one of those big things.
I think that's a really good example, is that separate kind of, we're all doing it separately. Like for me, it's how can we now come together as a group, cover the cost, put on a really big event, right? And say, something that you guys really, alumni and people in the community want to show up to and make that event so much larger, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We went through those cycles as well. And we had, our alumni were very involved in fundraising for the facility, and we're able to fund some great additions to the facility too. I hate to keep coming back to COVID, but COVID really stopped everything with alumni from happening. It stopped it in its tracks. We were no longer here. There's a wonderful facility here, and you had the space to be able to gather with some distance. But for us, during that time during the pandemic, we had to stop intakes even, and we had to basically for 2.5 years, we were not able to welcome alumni into the building. And we had some people that were very committed to the alumni for a long time. And I see a few of them here. We were just not able to keep that going throughout that time. Since all of that ended, now I see the energy again. I see the will, the desire, and everyone wants to get together to do this. And I think you're right, this is our moment to do it right, and not independently, but all together.
I was going to talk a bit about, can you share a personal story or example of how alumni engagement has positively impacted an individual or community? So we have a really wonderful lady that was a long-term alumni of Aventa, 34 years sober, and we kept in touch with her through we have an alumni newsletter. We kept in close contact with her. She liked to keep in close contact. And unfortunately, she passed away last year, but she ended up leaving $100,000 in her will to Aventa, which we're going to put towards scholarships for women who graduate from our program. And that's how her personal gift to us is impacting community at Aventa. So, I mean, that was great alumni engagement and great for her wanting to give back to the community. So we're very happy about that, and we're going to be launching these scholarships pretty soon. What I wanted to say about Aventa, when you talk about the fundraising aspect and in what ways does engagement contribute to the broader goal of community development and social awareness, we decided at Aventa that we had to try and come up with something that would engage the women to be involved in our alumni. And women love clothes. We just do. We like fashion, and we decided to start this pop-up shop at our location at 610 25th Ave. So what this has done is it's allowed us to provide an opportunity for women to give back by donating clothing. They can also volunteer at the thrift shop, and they can get a letter for volunteering. But they've become really quite engaged in this whole little operation, and we sell a lot of clothing, and we get a lot of donations from women. And last year, at the end of the fiscal year, we actually had a net profit of $30,000, which from this particular initiative with the alumni. I know, it's really great. And we're going to put that money towards this alumni scholarship opportunities as well, so we can help women to improve their skills as they reenter the workforce.
Just because I know a little bit on the inside, I think the other part is some of those funds Kim also directs to some of the other things that we've done together, like like when we do the pool party and so on. Some of those contributions and covering those costs it comes from somewhere, and those initiatives, I think, as organizations, we can certainly work together or independently.
Yeah.
It's a very fine balance, right? As an organization, we need to work independently on how to support the alumni, but the idea of how do you build that larger community is kind of the grassroots of Rocky Mountain Recovery coming together, so that we can take some of those pieces and begin working. If I was going to ask is, as leaders, how do you think we can come together a little bit more effectively? Like Kim and I, we've had a long relationship, working relationship, in the sense that, when we had the floods way back, was it 2010?
Yep.
Something like that.
13.
A long time ago, anyway. Fresh Start ended up taking in a whole bunch of people. Aventa was housed here in the gym, and Simon House was housed in the back west end of the building, and we had some from all over. Anyways, that was kind of the beginning of just being there for one another. But being able to, I think one of the successes for our alumni is it's built the actual association with a president and vice president and treasurer and all these positions. And being able to, I would like to be able to see how do we better communicate our alumni between each groups, so that some of those that support that we need to come up with can come to the table. I know baseball. It's kind of like when we were going to do the baseball. It was funny. The alumni wants to play baseball, and then these great ideas, and then we kind of work our way through solving it. And so it's like pick up the phone and phone Steen, and it's like, hey, are you in for baseball? This is what the diamonds cost. And he's like, okay, I'm how much? $100? Sure, I'm in. And then likewise all the way along, everybody throws it in. But I'd love to see some sort of mechanism or line of communication in which they can do that a little bit better. For me, creating that line item that in the budget was a way of saying, here, you guys have this much money, and this is, what we can do with it, and this is your responsibility to help raise that back, because it's not going to be there every annual budget, right? If it doesn't work out too well, then we'll be I don't know. I might not have a job. I'm just kidding. Um, we'll see what happens. But you know what I mean? How do we begin working towards that? Like, I know, like, I was at 1835 one night for a birthday many years ago, and a birthday night, and I went in, and it was just like I was overwhelmed. It was like standing room, shoulder to shoulder. You might as well have been on a subway train in Tokyo, for crying in the soup. It was packed. So those ups and downs, and how do we support that, that insight, or, I don't know if we go to Rocky Mountain Recovery and talk about what we do. Do we have an offshoot where we come together and brainstorm and share some ideas? Do we invite alumni in to say, what do you guys want it to look like? I think, we're kind of at, Kim, you nailed it. Like, we're only about 25% there. And the stretch is just, the sky's the limit, right? And we sometimes get caught up in just the semantics of events, let alone the momentum of community. So how do we better do that?
I think that's a good point in terms of coming together and maybe more regularly, but also the engagement of alumni. So I know when I started at Simon House, as an example, alumni didn't have a position on our board. And now they do, which also engages our board and lets them know what is going on at that level. And it's also an opportunity for our alumni to have a spokesperson to say, this is what we need, right? And so for Rocky Mountain Recovery, that would probably be really effective. Just regular meetings, like, we all know each other and we all meet every so often at these things, but it's we're all really busy as well, right? So being really intentional about it and just setting that time aside, I think, is really important. Yeah.
Maybe here's what popped into my head. It's like a psychological theme park up here, let me tell you. New ideas every minute, right, Rod? Hey, Priya. Hey, I got an idea. Why don't you join us? I was just thinking, maybe, if you do have, or we do have representatives from the alumni capacity, or if you don't, maybe go back and find them. Maybe we can send them in unison with, the leadership team at Rocky Mountain Recovery as the alumni representatives, so then they can carry back and get that momentum going. So it's a great idea.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I want to share just a quick piece about alumni engagement. I do find Fresh Start does a really amazing job with your alumni engagement program, but I've been able to call upon Fresh Start on a few different occasions to help us with a variety of things, and the alumni will show up, usually with Rennie, I find, but the alumni will show up and help us. They helped us move a bunch of donations, a tremendous amount of donations out of Cochrane. Took them the whole day. They were amazing. They've come over to our facility to help us do a number of different, minor maintenance type of issues that we need help with. And I think that, I love that you guys do that. And I love that it's alumni that's engaged in that program. And I believe that Simon House does this type of work. I believe that you do, and you do as well with your men, where they get out in the community and they do things. And I think that this is, we need to just say that out loud here. I think that we're doing a really good job in some areas, and we just need to continue to build. And even Fresh Start hosts these dances twice a year. I did attend the Halloween dance. I was here for the whole time frame, and it was so much fun, honestly. And the gym is packed, and so we are getting alumni engagement, not just from Fresh Start and Aventa. A lot of people come to these the sober dances. And
Can I jump in on the sober dance theme?
Yeah.
Just as an example, I think prior to it, when we do the dance, it was good. It was always fun.
Fun.
But with the help and the assistance and the extra effort that Aventa was able to bring to the table for us at the last New Year's bit, I just had a meeting with a gentleman that was interested. He specifically would like to sponsor, come to the table with a sponsorship donation for that event. And I think that is a result of, the online awareness and that community building pieces and and just building it a little bit bigger. I think about what you had mentioned. Stian had, that idea that you had put on the table about the kind of address book of the plumber, the electrician, the kind of piece, But, I'd like to see us be able to do that. But I want to go back to what Priya said, that we're very busy. Like, treatment's a full-time gig. And we all know, like, real life, real drama, real moments change in a heartbeat anytime during the day. We need support in doing that, and growing that alumni a little bit bigger, and we can talk about fresh start success. Like, we're on the high end of the wave right now. Okay, like we too came out of it and came into it understanding the importance of putting it back together. We suffered from the same losses. Like, I remember taking calls from alumni that were just bitter, hurt, angry, sad that they couldn't come to the house, right? And losing that connection. But outside of that, I think there's other opportunities for further connection we can build, right? So I didn't mean to cut you off. I just
No, that's okay. I
popped
just want to
into
give you
my
some
mind.
props because I actually think it's great talking about where we can go and how we can work together. But there's some really great things happening, and
That's right.
I'd like to celebrate these things. So I just want to say thank you for those.
So I'd like to add a couple of thoughts. There is so much beauty within our alumni, and it needs to be showcased. I remember when the Dream Center was getting started, and we were going door to door to share with our community what the Dream Center's vision was. We were told by the neighborhood, "That sounds great, but you've all heard this. Could you do that somewhere else, please? Not in my backyard. We don't want those kinds of people walking around our street." And that's the truth. And I think everybody here on this panel can share stories similar. Great idea, but could you please go and do that somewhere else? There's a misunderstanding of who's in the room right now. And the stigma that exists is large, and there's something incredibly powerful, and there's an opportunity for alumni to change the stigma that exists for our brothers and sisters who are not sitting here today. And there's an opportunity that you have that goes well beyond can we do, and you need to hear me from the place that I'm supporting all the activity that we're talking about here. Could we get outside of what can you do for the Dream Center? Could we get outside of what can the Dream Center do for you? And could we begin to talk about what we could do for our city? What if the least of us, what if the most marginalized, what if the most broken among us started to shine the brightest light to our city? What if we began to be a difference maker within our communities because we've come together for meaningful projects, for meaningful events, for meaningful service throughout our city? And it's not done under the name of the Dream Center. And it's not done under the name of Fresh Start. It's not done under that banner. It's done under the banner of people whose lives have been restored, that we're in recovery, and now we're making a difference together. There is such an opportunity for us to go from the dance floor into the byways and highways of our city together and demonstrate to our community that the people coming through recovery are exactly the same as the folks in the cubicle next to them, that every one of us has been touched, and now that we've been made whole, if you will, we're difference makers within our city. Just share with you really, really quickly one thought. When we at the Calgary Dream Center were getting started, we were birthed out of going down to Los Angeles to help serve at something called the Los Angeles Dream Center. It was the City of Angels Hospital was being converted to a facility that was going to be open 24/7 to address, it was going to be a spiritual hospital is what they were calling it. We're going to help the most broken people in society. So we'd go under the bridges, into the aqueducts, into the red light districts, into the communities, into the gang areas. We'd bring sandwiches. We would bring hope in whatever way we could. And you'd wonder, did that make any difference? Some 30 years later, the Dream Center in LA has a feeding program. They operate the largest food bank in LA every month, not virtually, but physically touching 80,000 people in their community every single month. And what we learned, it's great, absolutely. But the power that exists when we come together under a vision of what we can do to impact, we're going to take the narrative that we are the ones that shouldn't be in my neighborhood, and we're going to be invited into neighborhoods. Because where you go and where we go together, we make those communities better. We clean up our streets. We adopt the blocks around us. And instead of them being the most dangerous areas, now there's a safety because you're there. Because you're there. Because we're there. And who cares what shirt we're wearing? We're under the same banner, a group of people who once were broken and now we're helping others find healing and hope. And I think we can do that together.
You're absolutely right, Craig. And I just wanted to share a story. So Simon House has been in Bowness for 40 years at least. And we are fantastic community partners. We were just honored with a volunteer award that the Bowness community gave to Simon House and our clients and our alumni that all volunteer in that community. And a couple of years ago, I was meeting with the Bowness Business Association, the representative. And we were walking around, we were talking about Simon House and our guys and what they do in the community. And one of the comments was that the business community actually feels better having us around because our guys walk around and they can pick out things that are a little shady going on, and they know, right? Like we may not always be attuned to that. So in their mind, it makes the Bowness community actually a safer place. And we're having, our alumni is putting on a car show in August. I think is it August 17th? And the school that's right across from us, an elementary school, has offered up their parking lot. They're like, welcome, come, use our space, no cost. So this is, we're already doing that in our communities, right? We're already doing that in our communities and breaking down that stigma and the prejudice.
If we do it together and the alumni came together and we began to serve in Bowness and we began to serve in this opportunity, the alumni represented from those sitting here and beyond is a force for good within our city. And I'm just going to add one more thing. We want to get funds for our organizations. The favor that comes when our light shines brightly within our city makes it that much easier when we put in our proposals, when everyone sees the impact that we're having together. So good on you, and let's keep going together.
I just want to continue that train of thought. When I think about redefining the term recovery, is in that sense of exactly that stigma that's attached. We do the same. I think every organization here goes out and impacts the community a little bit. But when I think about the ebbs and flow of different levels of alumni attendance and participation and how much we can really engage that community, like right now, you can't engage the community at the same level you once could. We can. We're doing the initiative with the BIA, correct, Rod? Neighborhood cleanup thing. But how much bigger would it be if you had more people attend and really make an impact, and then go just have the group as a whole, from a recovery standpoint, go and pick another neighborhood to do that on, unrequested, and the message that gets carried, we begin to break that down, because I think abundantly we would win when we start to recognize that together. 26 years ago, as a broken down drug addict, you couldn't trust me. Public didn't listen to me. I had no opinion. I had no apparent value. And with the right support and the right people and the right guidance and the right mentorship and the willingness to learn, today that's changed. And I think we have a inherent responsibility to try to take this to the next level. That's what I feel passionate about. You're 100% right, Priya. We do a great job in community. We're breaking down stigma at that level all the time. But, being at that 25% mark, or that ground piece, in which Craig is sharing, is like I just can't help but, I almost feel it, like just, and that momentum. And I think it's very organic because I think, structurally, we were talking at the table about how things happen in your life and the pathway, and you don't really know until you get there and you look back and you say, that was pretty good. Couldn't have planned that one better. I think it's evolving, right? I think with Rocky Mountain Recovery and those pieces and us coming together, if anything today, I think is how do we incorporate each group's alumni more actively in that higher level kind of presentation in community, so that they get to go be part of community as a person in recovery. Because the truth is, we share people, right? There's nobody that's been through our center. Stan nailed it. I was just redoing an intake form the other night for this great new thing that you guys will hear about sooner than later. You're gonna love it. I can't really tell you, but it's good. But it's good for recovery. It's good for everybody in the room, right? And I was redoing this form, and it came to the part, have you been to treatment before? And I'm like, it doesn't really matter where, you know? What does it matter where you went to treatment? Who cares? And I took the question out because it's irrelevant to me. It doesn't matter where you went, because regardless of where they went, they picked something up. Individuals, we pick a little bit up from everywhere we go, and we may not get it right this time, but maybe the next place you land, you get the rest of the recipe. We can do that same piece in recovery. We can come together and add and contribute to one another's lives at a higher level in recovery, and not just the process of getting through treatment, but the process of continuing our path in recovery. So I like that bigger, wider bandwidth, right? And sharing that light. It's important we share the light. Yeah.
Question also comes up too is, our associations, are they separate entities? And a lot of our organizations, the alumni are a life of their own. They're their own organization.
Oh, yeah.
I love that when they get their own steam and they run ahead with programs and they do things on their own and on their own initiative. You run into issues, like you said, with coming out of a place with 2 life preservers instead of the whole raft and everything else. It's absolutely wonderful, and I think it's essential for us as organizations to be a little bit of an arm's length and let the alumni operate on their own. But we also need to be there to support them as well, and make sure that message of unity is consistent, and that we can properly support them in getting those tasks too. So that's a real balancing act that I don't know if I found the solution to yet. And that's one of the struggles. Right now, we're at a point where we do have people coming forward and saying, yeah, I want to help. I'm an alumnus, things are going really good in my life right now. I want to help. How can I help? And I'm looking at them going, okay, well, I got a number of things for you to do. Are you volunteering here at the center? Do you want to start, sitting in on group? Like, what do you want to do? Or do you want to put together big projects? He goes, no, I want to do some big plans, big things, big stuff. Oh, great. Wonderful. I don't know how to answer that.
I think that's really probably one of the biggest challenges we had, was finding that even keel. Like the alumni in Fresh Start Alumni having the discussion, and I'm like, I'm not taking over, okay? I'm not trying to, this isn't a hostile takeover. It's more of a mentoring thing. And I think that if anything in life I've come to learn is there's always somebody smarter than me. And it's not to say that we're any smarter, but how do we work together more effectively? And I think if anything, we're getting better in that capacity in Fresh Start, and having that line of communication and allowing the alumni to access some of our resources, and doing it together, right? And I guess what I'm hoping from here today is we've got some examples we share, and we'd love to share. And I'm not saying they're all that in a bag of chips, but I think we could take it a little bit like, where we're thinking of if we can work that symbiotic relationship here, then we should be able to work it here. And that's where the real magic's going to lie, And I think because that big stuff that everybody wants to do, it only gets done, and it's proof in the pudding that when we come together as a group, we put on big events. And when the big event happens, the outside community sees it and they begin to want to support it. The guy, he's simply seen it on social media, this, New Year's Eve dance, and just like, how do I get in on that? And I'm like, what do you mean, how do I get in on that? He says, I want to sponsor it. I'm like, well, let me tell you, wait, there's more, and we can do that together. And it doesn't have to be just ours. It can be a recovery related event, right? Like, that's the end game, right? Anybody who's in treatment, I didn't go to, I got kicked out of treatment, so it doesn't really matter. I'm not even an alumni anywhere, so I'm jealous about that. Yeah. Maybe that's my desperation to want to be so involved. Anyway, enough of that. But that relationship it's a hard one, but I think under the right terms we can mentor that together. But we need to make space as leaders for that to happen.
Absolutely.
Right?
I think you're right on with something here. There's a tension, and this is curious that you're all sitting here listening, because this is almost a thought to be shared more in a boardroom context, talking about how do we operationally do this. But you get to hear some thoughts that go on in the minds of the folks sitting here. And I'm a huge proponent or advocate for a couple of things. The first is empowerment. And I think that's a shared value. We want our team and our staff to be given all they need to go and do it. Go, get it done. But there's a tension that exists with alumni, and that's alignment with leadership. It's not an independent thing that's our own. It has to connect with the bigger picture. And that's not easy to navigate, how to empower and say go, but you must align. And that's one of the things that we're all trying to probably work out, and there's going to be nuances and differences for all of us, but it's critical that it can't be out there. It has to be getting the benefit of being connected and being a part of the whole while being released to go and make it happen without being micromanaged and controlled. And that would be a question. I don't know if it's appropriate to maybe bounce a few thoughts here, or if that's just something that is for another conversation, because it's a very real dynamic that we need to figure out so that we can be the best that we possibly can. Any thoughts?
I do actually. The first thought is Rob and Carmen. Carmen, is she here still? Up at the desk? Maybe Rob, if he's willing, maybe Robbie could take down a mic. Rob was our last chair, and he's mentoring the new chair. And I think it's that relationship and that alignment. That's 100% nailed it. It's the key to the process of being successful, because we want them to run, right? We want them to be here. And that was the reason I created the budget line item was, here's how much money you have. It's not a secret. Let me tell you how much I put in, right? Understand the responsibility of having to, help us re-up that money again, and offering some guidelines. They sell their merch. That's their money to help give back in the capacity they want. When we start talking about events and where the, Fresh Start is at the beginning or at the forefront of it, then we have to be a little bit more, understanding that, you're inviting the public into our house, both ours and theirs. So there has to be a little bit more input from our end of it, right? Some of the risk mitigation that goes on, and the insurance questions nobody else comes up with, and the things of that nature. So I think, from that perspective, if hopefully Rob will say, just kidding, I'm kidding.
Rob Addict, past chair for the alumni of Fresh Start. It's an honor to be standing up here with all the likes of everybody. I was not expecting this, but it has been detrimental for us to have Fresh Start involved with our alumni, whether it looks like a line budget or whether it looks like an extra set of ears in our business meetings, which has come to help us. Even to overlook some of the things that we're going to put out there as a whole for the community has been a big part, that coming together and, as you would say, aligning so that we can all move forward together has been huge. If we're left wild to do whatever we want, we're not going to align. That's all there is to it, right? And I think what you guys are doing, if you guys are doing your own thing individually, it will not align unless you guys work together. So I appreciate being able to work with Fresh Start hand in hand. I'm lucky enough to be an employee of Fresh Start and an alumni. So Bruce, I got one up on you because I am alumni. Sorry, buddy.
Thank you.
That just goes to show it works, right? It actually works. Because the end goal is I want you all to be one up on me. I think some of the pieces that he mentioned was, much like you had shared, Priya, is having the alumni show up at the board. We have a staff member who's a previous alumni show up to their meetings as well. Only as a set of ears to offer some guidance and some gentle, direction. Not as a micromanager, not as anybody that's directing, but just somebody that has a little bit more experience that says, "Hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? What about this?" And then in turn, they get to bring it back to us, the chair, and we'll bring back the ideas and limit in those pieces. So the alignment is key. And if each organization finds that recipe of alignment, then we can take it that step further to that greater next level of alignment of all groups together. So
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so looking forward to seeing the responses from the survey as well. I want to hear what everyone else has to say about it too, and some of that input, because we don't know everything, right? I'm really looking forward to some input and ideas. Yeah, we can sit here and commit to doing things together, but I really want to hear the voice of the alumni, right, and of current clients and everything like that. And what can we do? Let's hear that. Yeah.
When we talk about communities of recovery, right? And it just reminded me of years ago when my daughter was in her addiction. I was in Cochrane, and I felt so alone because the community, I felt like there was nobody in the community that was really understanding what addiction was all about. And I know we're talking about alumni here, but alumni could actually grab the greater recovery community, regardless of what treatment center they went through, or even if they did go through a treatment center, but they're in recovery. And can you imagine if that group descended upon neighborhoods in Calgary, right? Communities in Calgary, and made them better? And people that are looking, because there's still prejudice, there's still stigma, and people see that this community of recovery is coming and making our community better, making the playground safer, cleaner, sucking out the air so that, addiction can't exist, and everything that goes along with it, the crime, maybe they can do the neighborhood watch, that kind of thing. I'm just thinking big because I just think, what a better way to get this entire community of Calgary to support and really see what recovery is about and who these people are, and the impact, positive impact that we can have. It's bigger, but when you talk about support and financial support, then when you go to ask, it's like, yes, because that directly impacted me, even though I don't suffer from addiction, right? But I can see these people coming in and making my community better. I don't know, it's a big idea, but it's just what I'm thinking.
no, I think it's a great
it's
idea.
like, it's visible. It's not just our alumni getting together, putting on an event, having fun, raising some money, but real big social impact that everybody can see.
I think on those lines, I don't imagine, I believe. I know it can happen. I just feel it so deeply that here's what pops into my mind is if we came together as alumni groups together and impacted somebody's community, better yet, let's dismantle it backwards. Fresh Start's already established, much like Simon House, 1835 Dream Center, Aventa within their neighborhoods, and they're recognized for who they are, and we've done great community engagement and things of that nature. and we start going into these neighborhoods and we make a difference as a collaborative group, we're still going to benefit, right?
Definitely.
You know, it's sharing that you know, if Stian's group isn't on the high wave, I sorry to pick you on you again. You know, maybe we can help offset that and get them the resources that they need to do so. I don't think we're going to create that larger, more momentous movement, but it certainly what you're saying is real. Certainly, and what pops in my head is, you know, how do we begin to do this? Where do we do it? Do we do it at Rocky Mountain Recovery? Do we, you know, is that the next step? You know, do we do it here? This is the part where I don't know. You know, I don't think we know, but I think if anything, you know, much like Craig said, it's just the ideas and the thoughts that go around, and you know, your input is so important, so important. You know, like the vision is there, and the opportunity is real, and it's never been at a better time. You know, I'll say it out loud. We talk about recovery communities, you know, being laid out throughout Alberta, and all of us at the table here have been building a recovery community for the last more than 10 years, 40 years, 30 years. And now, well, we're talking about now is building a city, right?
That's it.
Building the city.
That's it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.